Yeah, okay, good morning, Prananda.
Hello,
Yeah,
good
first of all,
morning,
I'd like
Zikri.
first of all, I'd like to thank you to come to the interview session of InDelftnesia 2021. So,
Mm,
hi Kak, how are you doing today?
Great, surviving. I think that's
Yeah,
the appropriate word
yeah,
for these situations. Yeah.
it's
How are
good to
you?
know that
Good.
yeah, I'm also fine. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
we have still online classes in this year.
Mm.
So, but we don't know yet about the next year how's the condition is. But
Mm.
we hope that it's getting better to have an offline classes to get a
Yeah.
face-to-face
Hopefully.
interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
So
you can come back
yeah,
to Netherlands. Yeah, soon.
yeah, sure, indeed. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I
Right.
maybe first I would like to explain about
Mm.
to the audience about Kak Nanda.
Mm.
So Kak Nanda is the lecturer at Bandung Institute of Technology in Bandung, Indonesia, and Kak Nanda has finished his master degree and also his PhD in Kanazawa University about socio and and human and socio-environmental studies, and also he has his bachelor degree in Bandung Institute of Technology. And what is so interesting about Kananda is he has three publications about street vendors
Mm.
Indonesia as his main research of topic, and he highlight Soto as one of the street vendors is in Indonesia,
Mm.
and we would like to discuss more about that, about its social aspect, about Soto itself, and also its connection to the human behavior that related to our main theme of InDelftnesia 2021, that it's about Soto. So
Mm.
if I can explain also about InDelftnesia 2021, InDelftnesia is our biggest art and culture annual event held by our Indonesian Student Association in Delft, or we call it PPI Delft. So, and in this year for 2021, we bring Soto as our main theme, as we know that Soto can represent the food in almost every region in Indonesia. So we would like to introduce Indonesia to the international environment. So we invite Canada to discuss more about Soto in specific and its relation to the social aspect and also the human interaction.
Okay.
So yeah, thank you, Canada, to come to this interview session.
Sure. Yeah.
So maybe we can
Mm.
jump to the first question.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we would like to know what is your preference
Mm.
about soto, Kak Nanda. So what is
Yeah.
your favorite soto, and where your favorite to eat soto in
Have Soto. Yeah.
Indonesia? Yeah.
Well, before thank you for the lovely introductions, Zikri, and really it's been my pleasure to share my thought, especially about Soto, because uh, it's it's really one of my favorite food in Indonesia. So I think I did my research in 2015 to 2017, and I will discuss it more later. So, well, when you ask what's my favorite soto and where's my favorite place to eat soto, actually lots, because yeah, when I choose a specific site to do research, I also surveyed everywhere in Bandung, especially to see many soto sellers, especially about the street food. Yeah, because basically I love eating street food and also food that is served basically in small warung. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
really like a shop that serves really specialized in one type of food. So soto is one of the best food that I had at the time. And where's my favorite? Actually, if you could share my slides,
Yeah.
um,
Sure.
I have two places. Yeah, one is in Kudus. Yeah, Kudus city in central Java. It's called like Soto Ayam Bujatmi, yeah. So although it's called Soto Ayam or chicken soto, but basically they also serve buffalo meats, yeah. And Bujatmi is really well known for soto that specializes in making buffalo meats, in using buffalo meats. And as you can see on the right side, it's served in a small bowl. It's totally different with soto, let's say in Eastern Java or western part of Java. Typically, the soto is served in a larger bowl, but in Central Java and some places in Yogyakarta, actually it's served in small bowl. So it's really interesting to see how soto in Java Island is different, and I'm sure that soto will be totally different in another island in Indonesia as well. So what is the best from Bujatmi is a variety of small bite food. As you can see on the right side, you can see like satay, yeah, and also fried tempe, fried tofu, yeah. So although it's served in a small bowl, but you can have lots of small bites food, and you can eat more and more. Then you will not realize that you have lots of food in Bujatmi. So that's one of the best that I would recommend to all of you. If you visit to Indonesia, then you can go to the Central Java and you can find many varied types of soto. But I recommend you to visit this Bujatmi, and I will recommend you to have soto with buffalo meats. And another one is the Soto Ayam Madura. Actually, originally from Eastern Java. Yeah, this one. It's basically from Madura Island, and this soto ayam is slightly different with other sotos in let's say in Central Java and West Java, Eastern Java. So this type of soto is one of the best that I have, and I have it actually not in Eastern Java, not in Madura city, but it's actually near my university, yeah, near ITB. So I think Zikri, you also familiar. It's located in the Jalan Gelap Nyawang, if you know, near the PDAM.
Yeah, it tastes very good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know him from my undergrad degree. So that's the seller is also one of my best friend too. So that's why I completed my ethnographic research here that I will share today. So the best part from this soto is the koya. Yeah, we call it koya.
Yeah.
It's a powder. You can see right here. It's a powder made.
Right.
Yeah, that one. It's a powder from made from brown crackers that made by grinding or mashing it until it becomes a powder. So basically, a koya is used to thicken the broth. Yeah, if you want to thicken the broth or the soup, you can use koya more and more. And because I basically really love the food with thick soup, thick broth, so I always put more koya if I can visit this soto seller. Another story is that I've been his customer for more than 10 years, so he knows well about my soto type. So without saying more, than he already know about my soto. So yeah, that's one of the best.
So he has specific ingredients for you.
Yes,
special for
exactly.
you, Prananda.
Yes, and he know well.
Yeah, that's the main reason why we come again in that street vendors in
Exactly.
Soto.
Yeah.
Because we have our specific taste in Soto.
True. Yeah. True.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your answer, Kananda. So, and talking about your research, what was behind your research that you pick Soto as one of your street vendors that you put in your publications?
Yeah. Well, Actually, I did my ethnographic research on the everyday life of street vendors in Bandung, yeah, because I took anthropology basically in Japan at the time. So one of way to do research is to do ethnographic research. It's one of the best tool. I mean, that's a powerful tools from anthropological discipline. So I have to do ethnographic research, and because as I said before that I really love street food, so I want to do research on street food culture in Indonesia, and I took a specific study in Bandung. Uh, so when I first come back to Indonesia in 2016 and firstly did my research, ethnographic research, I visited many places, many street food sellers, but throughout the process, Mr. Rahman, as a Soto seller, is much more accessible at the time to do research because basically we already know each other for a long time. And yeah, so I did my like more than 6 months at the time to do ethnographic research, and like every day I visited him and helped him, and also learn about how to make soto at the time. So as you can see in the right corner, you see I made a soto ayam at the time, and I asked him about how to make soto at the time, right? And he really
So it's
explained
you,
in
yeah.
detail. Yeah, that's me. So he explained everything in detail about how to make soto, but you know, it comes with fail situations because it's really hard to do. It's really hard to, you know, when you put koya and then you put your rice and you put finally the soup, it's really hard. You
Yeah.
have to master, and it's hard to understand and it's hard to learn only by verbally. So you have to experience it for a long time in
Yeah.
order to have a perfect taste, a perfect shape of soto itself. So yeah, that's the what I did at the time, and interestingly, you know, I'm not only doing research to soto seller itself, but also I observed everyday life of the people, like the customers, the communities, and also other vendors that also related to these soto sellings activities. And even I also interviewed and observed some, we call it as a preman, I don't know, like gangster maybe in English, who also like help him every day in selling soto. So basically in my research, I explore the socio-cultural aspect of soto, and of course I'm also learning about soto making. Yeah. It's basically because he's a really close friend of me, and also it's accessible to do ethnographic research. So yeah, that's one of main informant for me to know about the socio-cultural aspect of the street food, and also about the my finding about social infrastructure that I wrote in my papers. So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Mm.
So you're basically like to have a social interaction to the each of the street vendors in your research, and you look further about the social interaction, how they collect
Mm.
soto, how they obtain the each of the ingredients in soto in general. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Furthermore, about your research that you also research about the social infrastructure
Mm. Yeah.
in the street vendors. So could you please explain more about that? About what
Yeah,
does it mean, the social infrastructure?
sure. So yeah, as I said before, when I firstly did my ethnographic research at the time, I want to know that why street vendors, although they are categorized as an informal enterprise, yeah, they are not really legalized by the local government. But I was curious at the time, like I was asking myself, why, despite they are illegal, why they are still surviving until current situation, until current day, right? And if you look through the historical documents, even before the post-independency of these nations, street vendors already exist a long time ago from the colonial era itself. And interestingly, the culture of street food is still preserved and it's still same actually until this time, right? Like people use the push cart, right? And then people eat in the street, and people like get cheap food at the time. It's really similar even before the post-independency. So uh, that was my questions, like why street vendors still exist, and why people, though some people like hate because it's irregular, and then it's also make dirty the conditions of the city, but people still love eating street food, right? So that's my question, like why the street food culture is still preserved until this time, why it still exists. That's my basic question. So it's really connected to the social infrastructure, because basically they are utilizing and they are cultivating their own infrastructure in their everyday life, because basically social infrastructure, as we know, it's it's like like fundamental facilities, right? Infrastructure is known as a fundamental facilities system or even services in every places, even in the city, in the countries, to facilitate the economy to function. So some people know infrastructure as a physical term, like highways, pipes, wires, and cables. But for those who working in the informal enterprise, somehow they are not really attached to this kind of infrastructure. So they made their own infrastructure. So social infrastructure basically is a term to highlight about the connection of people in order to survive in their everyday life. So they made actually the social connections with the food suppliers, with the with the customers, in order to survive in everyday life. So it means the social infrastructure means the platform made through social, cultural, and economic collaborations to sustain the livelihoods of the people, of the street vendors that often marginalized by the urban system. So you see the pictures here, it's actually the people or the food suppliers that the Mr. Rahmat, the Soto seller, to meet every day. So every time he finished the selling activities, usually around 4 to 5 p.m. So after that, he came back to his home, and then afterward, he will go to the nearest traditional market to get other ingredients for the tomorrow's activities. So you see, like in the left corner, you see the chicken seller, and you also see the rice seller, right? The rice suppliers,
Yeah,
and also the
sure.
veggie suppliers. He is really eloquent, and he knows well every person who provides the ingredients. And then the story is different, like interesting, like because he builds the really close relationship with each person here, and then he knows well about the family stories. He knows well the problem of each person. He knows well about the story of each person in order to to build such a social infrastructure. So yeah, in my study, I look at these kind of everyday activities by taking Soto seller as my subject of study, and explore how he keeps his social connections with the food suppliers, with his customers, even the gangster surrounding his selling places to run his business. So,
Yeah,
and if you see the next slide,
yeah.
so after my ethnographic research, I tried to break down from raw to cooked. So if you see the left one uh, is the soto, yeah, soto ayam that we see
Okay.
uh, at the shop or at the street vending places. So I tried to break down how it's made, how soto is made, and it comes with really in complex situations, complex social connections, and even complex and more than 70 actors I said here involved in everyday cooking activities and selling activities. Yeah, I listed like more than 20 people actually involved in soto making, because he has to meet, you know, food suppliers, he has to meet the customers, he has to meet the Pak RT, the chief of the selling areas, and he has to meet the gangster, and also he was also is helped by, I listed as, I wrote there as non-human. It means like tools, yeah, tools, the push carts, cooking tools, and so on. So even though we see it as a simple food, and I think we take it for granted, like you just eat it when you visit the places. But if you delve in detail, if you go more deeper, then you will see such complex network and activities that he always does every day. So this one is really interesting to see how the culture behind the soto. And I believe another food is also really complex if we break down one by one. And if you go to the next slide, so yeah, it's a kind of social network. It's a social infrastructure of Mr. Rahmat, of the seller. Yeah, the first ring is the closest people. Yeah, like his wife, his son. Yeah, that every day helped Mr. Rahmat to process the food. And the second ring, yeah, is his neighbors, his food suppliers, and his customers, loyal customers that always involved in his cooking activities. And the outer ring is his closest friend as well, but he meets maybe in once in a week or once in 2 weeks. So this kind of connection actually helps him to do selling and cooking activities of the soto. Yeah. So that's basically about social infrastructure story. Sorry, it's too complicated.
Yeah, so we practically don't know about this deep about what is behind the story about each portion of soto. We just eat and we just, yeah,
right.
we don't know this deep, yeah.
Mm.
So I would like also to ask how is the effect if one of the infrastructure is missing? Is it really?
Well, yeah. If, for instance, the chicken seller, yeah, the chicken seller is one of the closest friends of Mr. Rahmat. So I asked Mr. Rahmat, like, have you ever bought the chicken from another sellers? And he said yes, but he will not get really best ingredients, because the chicken seller already knows what kind of a chicken that usually used by Mr. Rahmat. And every day the chicken seller already choose or pick up one of the base chicken meat that is needed by Mr. Rahmat. So I think all food suppliers also does the one for Mr. Rahmat, and once one is the connection missing, it will be, you know, affect the shape and the compositions of the soto, and we will not have the best soto that we know if one network is missing, I guess. Because it really affects the quality of soto, the looks of the soto itself.
Yeah. Do Mr. Rahmat has another source of chicken suppliers or any other?
Yeah, he has.
Suppliers other than this, yeah.
Yeah, of course he has. Yeah, but I think he already knows which one has best quality, which one is kinder for him. Yeah, because sometimes he also like pick up some food and he can pay later. Yeah, maybe next week or next 2 weeks. So it's a common practice among this you know, this seller. So
yes,
but again, like if yeah, he has to also, he needs more time again. Like if one network is missing, he has to build another close relationship, and he has to, you know, knows and dig deeper, more deeper to know the seller, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's what is the challenging activities, even in the street food activities, right?
Yeah. So we can say the
Mm.
amount of 70 hectares can be higher than this.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it kind of amazed me of that behind every portion of Soto, it's a lot of
Mm.
actors contribute in the making of Soto.
Yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
this is the challenging situations, because when we see food, we always look at the end of product. Yeah, we only
Yes, right.
know the finished product. And what is the most we too much focus on the end of product. Yeah, the end product. So
Yeah.
we somehow, yeah, we always miss the process of, yeah, the food process from the upstream to the downstream. Yeah, as you can see, like the activities in the traditional market and then the processing in his house, it's a part of the food process that we cannot miss it. Yeah, if we want to see the
Yeah.
culture of the food, we have to look at holistically from the upstream to the downstream. So if we want to cultivate more about the food culture and introduce our food culture to international audiences, we have to also introduce all the aspect from the upstream to the downstream, and then other aspect of the food, like historical perspective, from historical perspective, cultural perspective, and other aspect of the food, so that we can introduce our food holistically. Yeah.
Yeah, we would like also
Mm.
related to your answer that you mentioned before, what is the other challenges that maybe the street vendors can expect
Mm.
in
Yeah.
developing Soto?
So yeah, I will look. Uh, I will discuss the challenge from my perspective in doing research in street vendors, because you know, street food or street vendors is somehow or often neglected, because it's, some people like really shy to introduce our street food, because it's regarded somehow as a, you know, it's not really good food and so on. But basically our culture is there. Yeah, we want to see the
Yeah.
culture of Indonesia, you can just look at the street food, because it's our part, it's part of our everyday life. If you want to see the culture of the people, basically you just see the everyday life of the people. And street food is, I believe, part of our everyday life. So uh, when you ask about what is the challenge in developing food, or specifically about Soto in Indonesia, is to enrich the knowledge, yeah, to cultivate the knowledge behind the Soto. We know already about the variety of Soto. We know already the variety types of the food, but we cannot stop there. Yeah, we cannot only stop by saying our food is really diverse. Not everyone knows about the diversity of the food, but what we need to do continuously is to cultivate, or to explore continuously about the knowledge behind the food, the knowledge behind the Soto, because basically the knowledge will not stop in a particular era, right? Every day
Yeah.
it's always changing. So uh, the key point or keywords is to continuously studying, yeah, the food from various perspective and various disciplines, from, let's say, from scientific perspective, from engineers perspective, even from historical and sociocultural perspective. We have to enrich, we have to keep enriching the potency of the food, and of course the Soto. uh, the interesting study is saying that there are more than 70 types of Soto in Indonesia, right? It's a good initial study and initial knowledge, but we have to keep digging more about uh, the story behind the 75 types of Soto. Let's say, yeah, this my previous study is one of smaller knowledge that I could share to you, and then I focus only on the social network of the street vendors. And by focusing on that, we can see like really holistic culture of Soto, right? And you
Yeah.
can imagine if you could do the same thing to other food in Indonesia. And we know that lots of food types in Indonesia. And then I couldn't imagine like how the social and cultural aspect of what Soto in Indonesia. And this would be really strong potency of Indonesia to introduce the food of Indonesian food. So this one is the challenge, yeah, to dig more and more the knowledge about food from various perspectives and disciplines. And then second challenge is to make it more popular, yeah, to
Yeah.
translate those scientific finding about the food in more popular way and make it more easier to understand by the common people, and of course to international audiences, so people would really understand the thick story of the food, the thick story of Soto, besides having an experience of eating Soto, right?
Yeah.
That's I think would be the what I could say cultural resource of food, yeah, the resource of the
Yeah.
culture
That's
of the food. That's the important thing, like telling the thick story of the food. And then I believe like Soto will be one of the one of the medium to introduce the culture of Indonesia, because as you say before, like you will see Soto everywhere, every regions and every city you will find Soto with different taste, different shape, different culture of Soto. So I think Soto will be the first door to know about Indonesia. So yeah,
yeah.
that's the challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. That you would like to introduce to the international environment. So that's why we
Yeah.
pick Soto as our main team
Yeah.
in
That's the
InDelftnesia
right choice.
2021.
That's the right decision.
We can represent every region in Indonesia. As
Exactly.
we know
Yeah.
that Soto is it's so unique based on its own region. We know that Soto, every
True.
Soto, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
in every, yeah,
Exactly. Hmm.
that's that's
Yeah.
our story. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, related to your answer, do
Mm-hmm.
the government support the street vendors?
Mm.
Do the street vendors have enough support from the government?
Uh, yeah, that's tough questions. Because yeah, basically I think like saying support is not that really supported, right? If you compare with food in the proper restaurants or in the hotel, the government doesn't really support well the street vendors activities.
Yeah.
But in some, yeah, but recently, like in some places, let's say in Surabaya or in Bandung, government tries to develop some places, let's say in the park or in public spaces, to accommodate the street food, which is good, yeah, as an initial stage. But as I said before, we cannot stop there, like, right?
Yeah.
So we cannot just giving a space and proper infrastructure physically for the street vendors. What is more to do is to give their enough support to cultivate their story, right? So not only the quality of food and proper infrastructure, but also to to make them proud of their work. Yeah. And then what is another challenge in the street food culture is that there is no good regenerations. Let's say the Soto, yeah, Soto seller that I
Mhm.
researched before, he has son and daughter, but he doesn't want his son and daughter to continue his job, because he said like street vending activities or his street vendor is not a good job, it's not a proper job. So he doesn't want his son or daughter to continue his job. He wants his son to go to the school and get a job, a proper job, and so on. So there is no loud, proudness, right?
Yeah.
To do street vending activities. So it's another story that we will see in the future, because we found it especially in let's say in Japan, right? In the past time, there are lots
Yeah.
of street vendors, and because street vendors is regarded as not a proper job, no one continue this job, and then street vendors disappear in Japan right now, only in specific places. So that's the thing that we have to consider, giving us support and cultivate more knowledge about street food, and then telling to the people that street food is our cultural resource that we have to preserve and we have to continuously develop. That's one of the way how we keep street food exist in the future. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. That's we need to do to preserve the street food in Indonesia, especially the soto itself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe we come up to the final question of, it's also related to your previous answer. If this message can be heard by the Indonesian ambassador or maybe the president, do you have any advice for InDelftnesia or Indonesian citizen?
Okay.
I mean, it's related to the developing of soto.
Soto, yeah. Well, so I have 2 points, about my advice to our friends in Delft and to government. So first is to develop soto as one of representative food from Indonesia to introduce Indonesia to the world. So I imagine soto can be equal to tom yum from Thailand, or Japanese curry from Japan, or Vietnamese pho, those noodles. So I imagine soto could be the representative food from Indonesia, and then we can develop it into other types of food, like let's say instant noodle with the soto flavor, right? Or cup noodle with the soto flavor, or other types of food that is developed basically from the soto culture. So I think that's one of my wish, to make soto as one of food representative from Indonesia. And then second is to not only soto but also the food in broader sense. So Indonesian food as the best medium to deliver our value to other people in other countries, because basically food and eating activities are universal activities, right? So people can eat, everyone basically eat. So I think by cultivate fooder, we can tell about our culture, about social conditions, about our value to other people. So I will really expect that ambassador or maybe president to explore more about Indonesian food, and one of them is of course soto as a soft power of Indonesia to influence other people about Indonesian culture, and to get used to with Indonesian culture in another country, right? Because we love food and all people do. So hopefully we will find in the future like Indonesian restaurants in Tokyo, in New York, and in many places, like we can see like sushi everywhere in Indonesia, right? So we hopefully can find Indonesian food everywhere, restaurants or supermarket or other things related to Indonesian culture by promoting our food. So that's my advice, I guess.
Yeah, that will be really great, Kak.
Yeah. So
yeah,
hopefully you can
yeah.
you can introduce Indonesian through food. Yeah.
It's really good if we can find soto almost anywhere in the world, as we can, as you mentioned before, we can find curry from Japan and pho from Vietnam, just like soto from Indonesia.
True. Yeah.
So the international can know Indonesia from soto instead of Bali, I mean, or any
Exactly.
other
Yeah.
specific destination.
True. True. Yeah. Soto is the first door to enter Indonesia. Okay.
So do you have any further project about street vendors or soto in specific? I mean, to expand your research.
Yeah. So I am now doing research and into several warung. So like last month, we collaborated with our friends from Party Gastronomy community, not community, they are collective chef. So we visited like really historical coffee shop in Bandung. It's actually next to Bandung station, and it's already established before the independence of Indonesia, like before 1945. So basically they are started as a street vendor who selling coffee, but now they have a small shop, and it's already 3 generations running this store. So we are trying to now find those type of street vendors or those type of small warungs in West Java, so that we could explore more food culture other than soto. That's our current project.
So related to your previous experience and also your background study.
True, yeah.
So you stick to that main topic.
Yes, exactly. Food, because I love food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we have finished all of the questions.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
So yeah, thank you very much, Prananda, to share with us. That was really informative and really beneficial to expand our knowledge about Soto, and also the advice we can implement to our InDelftnesia 2021 to introduce Indonesia to the international environment through Soto.
Yeah, sure. My pleasure. It's really lovely to meet all of you guys, and I hope we can collaborate in the future with students in Delft. So
right.
Good luck for all of your program too, and let's meet again soon.
Okay. So we have a bit of appreciation, Kak. We have some certificate of appreciation that for you that you have participate in this event and share to us very informative information.
Thank you.
We'll send the certificate to your email. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Prananda.